The jump serve is one of the more advanced serves in volleyball, which includes a setup before the hit. Plantar flexion is the first primary joint movement that occurs. It occurs in the sagittal plane and horizontal axis. The bones that allow for plantar flexion are the tibia, fibula, and talus, and the synovial joint type is a hinge joint. The agonist of this movement is the gastrocnemius. Its origin is the lateral and medial condyle of fibula, and the insertion is on the calcaneus. The antagonist of this movement is the tibialis anterior. Its origin is on the anterior tibia, and the insertion is on the first metatarsal. The synergist of this movement is the soleus, and the origin is the head of fibula, and the insertion is the calcaneus. Another primary joint movement is trunk rotation. Here, I'm just showing the upper portion of my body as it's easier to analyze. Trunk rotation occurs on the transverse plane and longitudinal axis. The bones that allow for trunk rotation are the thoracic and lumbar vertebrae of the vertebral column. The vertebral column isn't considered a type of synovial joint, and instead it has cartilaginous joints in between the many bones that make up the vertebral column, which move together to create movement. The agonist of trunk rotation is the internal oblique. It originates on the iliac crest and pubic bone and inserts on the linea alba. The antagonist of trunk rotation is the external oblique. It originates on the lower ribs and inserts on the linea alba as well. The synergist of trunk rotation is the rectus abdominis. It originates on the pubis and inserts on the xiphoid process. Newton's third law could be connected to the jump serve because the third law states for every action an equal and opposite reaction occurs. When I throw the ball up, gravity brings the ball back down. When I apply force to the ground with my feet, the ground exerts the same force, allowing me to jump. When I apply force on the ball with my hand and or lower wrist, the ball accelerates over the net. The ATPPC system plays a huge role for hitters in volleyball, as you can see from this guy's spike. ATPPC is used for spiking, blocking, and diving, which require a push and jump. These movements only last for a few seconds and are very explosive. This is a volleyball clip that shows the glycolytic system while in volleyball. It's Japan versus Italy. The glycolytic system is heavily used in volleyball. The play of the ball shifts from one team to the other rather quickly in just a few seconds, where each team uses a high-intensity anaerobic burst when moving around the court to defend or attack. Cellular respiration tends to dominate out of the three systems, as volleyball is considered to be an aerobic sport. Cellular respiration supplies the athlete with energy between intervals, which could be time between getting points or during timeouts. The type of cardiovascular training that would benefit athletes in volleyball is endurance training. Volleyball tends to have lots of jumping depending on how the game plays out. Something like jump rope or swimming would be great for volleyball, as swimming has some of the same motions as volleyball, and jump rope for long periods of time will condition your legs. When in the front row, type 2 muscle fibers dominate as they're using explosive movements for jumping and blocking. When in the back row, type 1 muscle fiber dominates as they're watching the other team to set up and defend via a bump or sometimes diving. During most hits in volleyball, I would want to achieve maximum velocity on the volleyball. Therefore, I would use principle number 3, joint sequencing. Since I would be in the air, I would start with my hips, then shoulder, elbow, wrist, and phalanges. Although maximum velocity is important, putting spin on the ball is also important. I would use principle number 6, torque, to add spin. I would hit the ball with maximum force, but also increase how far the axis, which is my shoulder, is from force applied, which is my hand and or lower wrist. The last primary joint movement is shoulder extension, which happens on the sagittal plane and horizontal axis. The bones that allow for shoulder extension are the clavicle, scapula, and humerus. The type of synovial joint is a ball and socket joint. The agonist of shoulder extension is the latissimus dorsi. It originates on the thoracic and lumbar vertebral column and sacrum and the iliac crest and inserts into the intertubercular groove. The antagonist of shoulder extension is the pectoralis major. It originates on the clavicle and sternum and inserts into the intertubercular groove. The synergist of shoulder extension is the posterior deltoid. It originates on the spine of scapula and inserts into the deltoid tuberosity. That's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed.